Hi everyone, there will be a quiz at the end of this lesson to test your knowledge on everything that we have learnt so far, so make sure to take notes and pause the video if you need to. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to lesson 4 of your music production course with me, Katie Russell, and with Planet Drum. In the previous lesson, we looked at cables, mixing desks, file formats, and doors. In today's lesson, we are going to look deeper into doors and their different functions, some more advanced mixing desk controls, sound and acoustics, and finally we are going to finish up with a glossary. The glossary will include terms that we have covered and some that we haven't, because some of these might come up in your written exam. First, we are going to look at plugins. What are plugins? Plugins are software elements to extend the functionality of your door. You can see examples of this on page 21 in your music production book. There are different types of plugins. You have instrument plugins. These make sounds. You have effect plugins like EQ or compressors. These are effects. You have MIDI manipulation plugins like chord tools, note repeaters, and arpeggiators. The most common plugins are VST. This stands for Virtual Studio Technology. AU, which stands for Audio Units. This is Mac only. AAX, which is for Pro Tools, Windows, and for Mac. And you have UAD, Universal Audio. Now let's have a look at software instruments. What is a software instrument? In brief terms, it's an optional piece of software that operates within your DAW as a synthesizer of various kinds of instruments. Many software instruments come with your DAW when you buy it or download it, and you can also purchase more from the manufacturers. Check out the following video, which shows the software instruments in BandLab. Moving on, we're going to have a look at score editors in your DAW. So what is a score editor? You can find this on page 22 in your music production book. A score editor is a DAW editor window which enables you to edit and manipulate and input musical notation. Check out the following video of a score editor in Logic. You can find this near the piano roll in Logic. We looked at piano rolls in the previous video. Now we are going to have a closer look at mixing desk functions. We touched on this briefly in the previous video as well. Mixing desk functions, which you'll also find in your DAW mixer window. You can find this on page 23 of your music production book. Again, we had a brief look at these in your previous lesson, but the four main functions you will always find are the fader. This controls the level of the audio leaving the channel. We've got the pan pot. This controls where the sound sits in the stereo spectrum between left and right. Cut and mute. This prevents sound from leaving the channel. Routing. This sends the audio signal from one place to another. Now we're going to have a quick look at sound and acoustics, which you can find on page 24 of your music production book. It's good to be able to communicate with other engineers and producers, so here are some terminologies that we think you should know. First up, we've got mono. This stands for monophonic sound, which means one channel of audio. We've got stereo, which stands for stereophonic sound, which means two channels of audio, left and right. This creates a more realistic representation of sound. We've also got surround sound, which requires from 2 to 9 channels of audio, with speakers surrounding the listener to create a more realistic sound than stereo. I like to think about a cinema when I think about surround sound. Hi-fi, this stands for high fidelity and it means high quality. And then you've got lo-fi, which stands for low fidelity, which basically means low quality. Some people like this as an effect on guitars, for example. dB, this stands for decibels, the unit of measurement for sound level. More dB means louder. Finally, we've come on to our glossary. You can find this at the back of your book. I'm going to read some out to you now that I think are important and they might come up in your exam. First up, we've got bounce or bouncing. This is the creation of a new mix file from your DAW, basically exporting your project or your song or your track out of your DAW. We've then got Canon connector. This is another word for an XLR connector. We've got CD. This is abbreviation for compact disc. We looked at CDs in one of the previous lessons. Turning over the page to page 48, you can see channel or mixing desk channel. This is a default signal path through a mixing desk, and a mixing desk will have a set number of channels. Each will be numbered and you can assign to different instruments. We've got console. Another word for this is the mixing console or mixing desk. Then we've got control room. So a control room is a part of a recording studio where the sound engineer will operate the equipment, such as the mixing desk. You've got cut, which is another name used for mute. We looked at cut and mute on our mixing desk earlier in this video. Turning over to page 49, we've got DAT. This is an abbreviation of digital audio tape, which we looked at in a previous video. Another term you will find useful to know is DJ, which stands for disc jockey, and it's a performer who plays pre-recorded material, crossfading between the tracks. DJs can also produce their own original material nowadays. FL Studio, which is another DAW, and this stands for Fruity Loops, but they changed the name as it grew more popular. Turning over to page 50, we've got layering. This is recording additional parts over the top of existing parts so that they sound like one. For example, a string section playing the same melody as a piano. We've got line input. This is used for connecting line level devices such as synthesizers and outboard equipment. We've then got a live room, which is the part of a recording studio where the performers are. This is where you will mic up your performers and the performance will take place. We've then got a metronome. We're going to look at this a little bit in more detail in the next lesson, but it is basically a device which emits a regular click in time with a tempo and time signature. This helps musicians keep in time, and you will be using this in your DAW and in BandLab. Turning over to page 51, we've got mini disc, which is an evolution of the CD, which housed the optical disc inside a plastic case, making it smaller and more durable. We don't use mini discs anymore. Now we've got mix, which is a version of a recording which features all of the recorded elements balanced together correctly. You can also call this mixing. We've also got mute, which is another word for cut, which silences the device or the channel. Next, we've got operating system, which is the software installed on your computer which controls its function. For example, Windows. Outboard device. This is any piece of equipment which is not part of the mixing desk. We've also got a patch cable. We talked about patch cables when we were looking at cables. This you'll find in a recording studio to make connections on a patch bay. Don't worry too much about what a patch bay is at the moment. Some guitarists will also use patch cables to link their pedals together. Turning over to page 52, we have a peripheral. So this is an external device that can be connected to a computer system to enhance its capabilities. So you've got an audio interface, a mouse, a MIDI keyboard, anything like that. We have a phono connector, also known as an RCA connector. Next, we've got a pot or potentiometer. This is a variable resistor which exists on a mixing desk or console in the form of a knob. You will also see a digital version of this in the mixing area, the mixing console of your DAW. For example, do you remember the pan pot? It's a little knob you can turn towards the left or the right. That is a pot or a potentiometer. We have a producer. This is the person who leads the music recording project. They'll make a lot of the creative decisions. We have record decks. So this is a playback device for vinyls, We talked about vinyls in a previous video. A DJ would normally use this as a mixer and will have 2 decks to crossfade between both of the vinyls. Turning over to page 53, we have routing. We looked at routing on the mixing desk functions earlier in this video. This enables the user to set the signal path to transfer the signal from one place to another. We have a sequencer. This is an old name for a digital audio workstation, an old name for a DAW. This refers to the sequencing of audio and MIDI. You have a session file. This is a DAW saved file, which also requires additional assets such as audio files. When you save a project in Logic or in Studio One, it will save it to your desktop or wherever you set it, and it will also hold your audio files all in one place for you. The sound engineer. This is the person who is primarily in control of all of the equipment. They work under the direction of the producer. Turning over to page 54, we've got synthesizer. This is an electronic device which generates sound. It might be original sound, or it might be used to emulate acoustic instruments like drums or piano. Next up, we have a track. This is an individual element of recording or recorded material, such as a vocal or a guitar. We then have a trackball and a trackpad. So this is the last ones we're going to look at. This is an alternative to a computer mouse. The trackball has a little ball on top, which some people find easier to use. And a trackpad is what you find on your laptops. The little rectangular pad at the bottom of your laptop where you can move the mouse. Great work, guys. In the next lesson, we are going to start our listening section. So we have finished up our theory. In the listening section, we're going to look at identifying instruments, pitch, and note lengths. I will see you in the next video. Well done, and thank you for watching lesson 4. Now it's time to take the quiz and test your knowledge on DAWs, mixing desks, sound and acoustics, and the glossary. Good luck.